So you want to upload the recipe notes?
No, actually, that's a basis activity to do that.
Yes, I know. I said, are they doing it or you don't?
No, they have not completed that part.
Oh,
And
okay, okay,
so we will discuss the order settlement to profitability segment.
all right,
Earlier, we have seen the order settlement to cost center. Now we'll see the internal order settlement to
okay,
profitability segment. Then after that, we will discuss something about you know FIMM integration, FISD integration, what is organization structure and all. So I'll be sending across those documents today, so that
hmm,
you just have to go through them. Those are the configuration steps required in order to run purchase order cycle and sales order cycle.
okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
I think Naresh is there now, so
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so today we will be discussing about the order settlement to profitability segment. In the earlier sessions, we discussed about internal order settlement to cost center. So what happens in that case is, as you know, there are two types of internal orders. One is a real internal order, the other one is a statistical internal order. Statistical internal orders cannot be settled, but real internal orders have to be settled at the end of each month. We have seen the internal order settlement or cost center at the end of the month. So using KO88 a transaction code, we have settled the internal order amounts to cost center. Let's just see how do we settle the internal orders to profitability segment. We have this option as well to settle to a profitability segment. So I'm going into controlling internal orders, order master data, and define order types. Here, earlier we have created two, right? These are the two we have created. I think we also have created this one. Okay, don't know what for we have created that. And we also have the other one created. Okay, don't know what for we have created. I don't remember. Anyways, let us create one more internal order type, internal order. Okay, order type, so that we will be using the same thing for our COPA settlement. Okay, I'm just going into new entries, order category. So this will differentiate what type of the order type that you're going to create. Is that going to be an internal order, production order, QM order, or whatever? That is what it explains. So I'm just selecting 01, which is an internal order. Press enter. Now I'm creating an order type. I will say 2000 real internal order profitability segment. Now here the settlement profile is the one that we will have to create, and object class is going to be overhead cost. Okay, of course we all know about this part, residence in time. I'm just putting something here. Status profile is the one that we are using the standard. Okay, that's all. Now so I'm saying release immediately. Okay, so save it. Number range not processed, that's fine. So we can assign the number range here itself. So select this number range, change the interval, and this is our order type. So select the same thing, select assignment, and double click on the number range that you want to consider. So since we have kept everything in 0, 1, we have kept everything in 0, 1. I'm just double clicking on 0, 1 so that we can see our internal order type over here. Now, so far I have not mentioned where I'm settling. The settlement profile is required in order to map this rule. Okay, so we will go and do the settlement profile now. So before we go on settlement profile, we require one important thing. So what is that? We will see now. Back. Now here we have one option called settlement. Now here, so settlement profile. When you go here in the maintain settlement profile, double click on maintain settlement profile. Okay, when you go here, any of the settlement profile that we have created already, selecting the same thing, going into details. Now here we require PA transfer structure. Why do we require PA transfer structure? Because we want this to be settled to COPA. We want this to be settled to COPA. So we require a profitability segment related configuration that is nothing but PA transfer structure, profitability analysis transfer structure. So this needs to be created before we go and make this thing happen. Okay, so here we have an option to create the same thing. PA, maintain PA transfer structure. So in order to have the settlement profile created, we require PA transfer structure. So here we are telling the system what is our PA transfer structure. I mean, what is the sequence that we want to consider. So remember one point, this is basically used in the case of costing based COPA. This is required in the case of costing based. This is basically we use PA transfer structure is used in the case of costing based COPA. Okay, so now let us go and create PA transfer structure. You can create either from here, and we have another option to create from profitability analysis itself. When you go here, flow of actuals, and here transfer from direct postings from direct postings from FIMM, maintain PA transfer structures. So you can do it from here. You can create a new one over here, or we can do it from over there. Basically, this is one place. And as I said here, this is basically for direct postings from FI and MM. So in this case, we will always consider the standard one that is called FI. So because of that, you're not finding any new entries here. But if you go there, if you go to some other place, like say orders and project settlement, define PA transfer structure for settlement. The path for this is IMG controlling profitability analysis, flow of actual values, order, and project settlement. Define PA transfer structure for settlement. Just execute. You can create over here. You have new entries option. You can create either here, or if you want, you can create there itself in the internal order area. It's going to be the same. There is no change at all. Even if you go here in this, it will give you the same screen. It gives you the same screen. Okay, right. Now let us go and create the PA transfer structure. Now, what about the allocation structure? Maintain allocation structure, just execute over here. And I think we have created 20. Let me go and select the same thing, double click on assignments. Here we have expenses. And what are expenses? What do you mean by expenses? And what is your settlement? Okay, so here OKKS. Okay, OKKS is fine. KEBD, fine. So SPRO, controlling internal orders, actual postings, settlement, and allocation structure, just execute. Okay, now if you select 20, double click on assignment, and you have expenses, you know what are the sources for it. And in this case of settlement cost element, no company code assignment to controlling area. Why it is asking this? Oh, I'm sorry. I think our controlling area is 1248 only, right? Or 2000? Yeah, 1248 only. Expenses, source, and settlement.
Nanda,
Mm.
no exit. Can we read that question mark? Let's see what is asking there.
It is asking for the assignment, no
Yes.
company code assignment to controlling area PNC1.
Just
I'm,
give direction on the question mark. I just want to see it anyway. Not down,
sorry?
down, the yellow one beside exit. Yes. I just want to see if it's going to be give a direction. Okay.
No, see here, basically it is a missing configuration, that's fine, but the controlling area, this is not our controlling area.
Okay.
So this controlling area does not have any account company code assignment. That is
Right.
the question.
Right. Okay.
So, but why it is asking, that is what the question is. We are there in our controlling area. OKKS, it is our controlling area. When you
Yeah.
go here in KEBD, it is our operating concern.
Right.
Right, so why this is asking, that is what the question is. So let me just go and assign something over here. Controlling area PLC, something it mentioned, PL01 PC PNC1. he just created it. He has just created. There is no connected configuration at all. Okay, let me try now. It is not allowing me to delete as also because of number range and all other stuff. He has just created and does not have any corresponding company code also. Okay, let us see us. Yes. So actually we are going into our area. Allocation structure. I want to show you something over here because that is also important thing. Source, we have this, and when you go here into the settlement, God. Okay, anyways, let us do without the allocation structure. Maintain PA transfer structure. Let me, gives me the same, no change in this. I don't understand why it is expecting when we are in our controlling area. Okay, so let us go and do PA transfer structure. What is a PA transfer structure? So basically PA transfer structure is the one that talks about, you know, uh, what is our value field. What is our value field for a specified cost element? Suppose I'm posting a transaction by considering a particular cost element. So cost element is the one that is there in the controlling, right? The corresponding GL will be there in finance, but how does the system understand? Okay, this cost element is nothing but this value. So this value means value field. So in costing based COPA, system will consider based on the value field, right? So this PA transfer structure, as I mentioned, is used for costing based COPA. This PA transfer structure will have to have a value field in it. So what what are we telling here? We are giving the information to the system. If this is the GL, if a particular expenses is a salary, if an expenditure is a rent, what is going to be my value field? So that is what we will be telling over here. That is what we will be telling over here, salary and rent. So that allocation process will be done here in the PA transfer structure. Okay, maintain PA transfer structure. Path for this is this IMG controlling internal order, actual postings, settlement, maintain PA transfer structure, just execute. We have some standards, there are few standard, probably few of them created already, but to have our own, go to new entries. Let us put 20 PA transfer structure. PA transfer structure for 2000. Okay, just a code with some description. Select the same thing, double click on assignment lines and go to new entries. 10, I'm just putting something 30. Okay, so I will say salary, I'll say rent and other expenses. Okay, I will say these three assignments. Now select the salary, select the first assignment. Okay, if it is quantity related, we can select that, otherwise ignore it. And source assigned, value field assigned, that will be checked automatically once we have completed this part. Now I'm selecting the first assignment, 10, double click on source. Okay, here cost element, here cost element. What is the cost element for this PA transfer structure assignment? So what are the cost element that will talk about this PA transfer structure? Okay, so salary, we have got only one, 1248. I will say salaries here. Okay, this is a salary and it is an expenses related one. In the case of product costing, we will be discussing about the variance. Okay, so 4 lakhs. This is what the cost element that will talk about this assignment. And if a transaction happened using this cost element, which value field to be considered, that is what we will be explaining here. So double click on value field, go to new entries. Is it a value field or quantity field? I will say value field. And whether it is a fixed, variable or semi. So here we will say variable. I'm just selecting variable, or you can consider some are fixed, some are variable based on the nature. And value field, what is the value field that you want to consider for this? These are the value fields available for our control, for our operating concern.
Hello, Nanda.
Yes.
The fixed or variable, how do you know when to use fixed?
Right. If the salaries, if you are paying salaries irrespective of the production, then that is considered as a fixed. If your salary is based on the production, then that is considered as a variable. Sometimes in some cases what happens is salary will be fixed, and apart from that the salary, I mean some portion of the salary will come based on the production. In such a case, semi variable or semi fixed we can consider,
Okay.
but that
Is this
does not
something that business can provide for us?
exactly.
Okay.
So based on the nature, we can easily, say some most of the cases, but in some cases we cannot. Okay, but anyways, that is what basically the business has to provide. But one important thing is whether it is an fixed, variable, semi-finished, it does not have any impact on our business, on our reporting structure. That will not have any impact.
Okay.
Okay, yeah. So since this is salary, I'm selecting administration value field. Okay, done. Now go to the assignment line, and if you see here, these two are selected here. Now select rent, double click on source. What is my rent cost element? Select that accordingly. I'm selecting a chart of accounts, and what is my rent received we have, but factory rent we have. Okay, so I'm selecting office rent, factory rent, both are there. So I will select office rent, or you can select both of them. If you want to select both of them, if you say here 400 to 100, 400 100 to 400 400, all will come up over here. So to avoid that, you will have to create a group. So what I will do, I will say rent. I'm just creating rent group. This rent group will have those two cost elements. Cost element group, I'm saying change. Do you wish to create rent the group? Yes. Now cost element group for rent. Now keep your cursor over here and select cost elements. 400 100 and 400 400. Factory rent, office rent. Save. If you select a range, you will have here, you can enter 400 100 to 400 400, but all cost elements created within that range would come here. So if you want to take individually, you can select this. Save. Back. Back. Now this is our cost element group. Now if you select over here, you can see. Okay, this is our cost element, and this is for cost and revenues. Double click on value field, go to new entries. This is a value field, and you can select three variable and fixed, semi-variable, semi-fixed, and value field going to be rent. Okay, value field going to be rent. Next, assignment, then other expenses. Double click on source, and we have to select other expenses. Okay, so going into extras, cost element group, change. Yes, I just want to create it. Other expenses group. Cost element group for other expenses, otherwise cost element group for other expenses. Okay, so select cost element and select the other cost element. What do you want to consider? Now what else missed here? Salaries finished, this finished, stationery to be selected, and electricity also to be selected. 400 200, and I will say 400 300, and I will select 400 200 400 300. Of course we don't have anything else. These are all external settlements and all those things, so that's fine. If at all you want to consider something else, you can also consider, like 4 lakh 10,000 to 4 lakh 99,999. Of course, we have only external settlement. We normally don't consider that. That's fine. Okay, so save it. So that's it. Saved. So these are the cost elements that are there as part of OTAG. Other expenses. So we have created all of them. Cost and revenues, value field, new entries. I will say value field. I will say one, and you can select the relevant value field. I will say insurance. I will say insurance. Normally we will create separate value field if at all you have these kind of, the assignments, because we will have a separate GL for insurance, and the expenses relating to that cost element should trigger here. So when you have any unspecified cost element like other expenses, you will have to create a separate value field for other expenses, and you can assign to that. Save it. Okay, so we have created a PA transfer structure called 20. This 20 has got three assignments: salary, rent, and other expenses. All have been maintained over here. Okay, all have been maintained over here. Now let's go back to our settlement profile and assign this allocation structure, PA transfer structure. I'm going into settlement profile. Path is the same. Just execute and maintain settlement profile. And here we will have to create our own settlement profile. Okay, so let me create 2000 as my settlement profile. Go to new entries, 2000. I will say settlement profile for 2000. Okay, I want to set to be settled full, and my PS transfer structure, the one what I've created just now, which is 20. Select the same thing, and I'm saying default object type as profitability segment because I want this to be settled to profitability segment. Here we have selected profitability segment. Profitability segment. Okay, now you can keep all of them in the optional, otherwise you can keep a profitability segment as optional. Normally we'll keep everything as optional because we may have to use the same settlement profile for something else. Suppose if you don't have project system in scope, then you can keep it as not allowed. Profitability segment optional, cost sales order optional, cost objects, order items, business process. If at all you have real estate, you can keep that as optional. Otherwise, you can keep it as as not allowed. And here I'm selecting percentage settlement only, or if I want, I can say equivalence in numbers. And document type, I will say SA, and maximum number of distribution rules, I will say 3, and residence in time, I would say 6 months. Okay, just press enter. And save it. Why this is taking this much time? Okay, save it. Done. Okay, so now we have a settlement profile without the allocation structure. Save it. and we have created our own PA transfer structure. This is the most important step for this. Go back. Now we will have to assign the settlement profile to our order type. So double click on enter settlement profile in order type. Now you will have here, this is the one that we have created. Our settlement profile is 2000. You can select it from the drop down as well. Just assign the same thing, save it. Now we have everything in place. Now say this is our order type. Now we will be creating internal order. We will post some transactions to those internal orders, and we will do a settlement profile. So from the configuration front, what do we have? We have created an order type. We have created a PA transfer structure. The same PA transfer structure we have considered in our settlement profile. The settlement profile is assigned to our order type. That's it. Now from the front end, what we will have to do? We will have to create internal order using the order type created a little while ago. And next, what do? We will have to post transactions into that. And at the end of the month, we will be settling that. Let us see this cycle. Go to controlling, internal orders, master data, special functions, order, KO01, double click on KO01, controlling area, and our order type is 2000. Press enter. Okay, I will say internal order for profitability segment. Our company code is 2000, and I'm selecting profit center as 2000. Okay, profit center as 2000. Profit center in company code. Our company code is 2000. Yeah, only one profit center available. So I'm just selecting the same thing. In the control tab, we are not selecting the statistical. Okay, and in the settlement rule, you can have to select what is the category that you want to consider. These are the one that we have selected as optional, right? These are the one that we have selected as optional. So I'm selecting profitability segment. Okay, profitability segment. So on selecting this, we have this window. So what are the characteristics that you want to consider that we will have to enter over here? So I will say we don't have any of this information. You can select if you want, if you have any data. Otherwise, just profit center, that is the one we have, or we can select the cost center also. I will say some cost center. So I will say 2000 as my cost center. Okay, so there is nothing to enter. Country, if you want, you can select. Okay, continue. That's it. Profitability segment is created. And just save. Now you see enter allocation structure. Okay, so the allocation structure is required, right? Of course, PA transfer structure is the most important, but allocation structure, what it says, it gives the information of what is the receiver category. But in our case, it is not allowing us to do that. I tried multiple times, but system is not allowing us to do that. So allocation structure. Okay. So here, let me try with the other option. Let me create a new one and see. Now, if I go here, assignments, and here once you select here source, and once you double click on the settlement cost element, there one important point comes into picture. I wanted to show you that, but it is not happening. Let us see. Let me go and create that one. Let me try creating the new one. Okay, I'm going into new entries. This time I will say 1 2 allocation structure for P profitability segment. Select the same thing, double click on assignments. Now go to new entries. Okay, I'm coming out from this. Yes. Okay. Now I'm going back to the allocation structure configuration. Here, this part is important on the whole. Okay, go to new entries and I will say 10 all expenses. Okay, select the same thing, source, double click on source. I'll say 4 lakhs to 4,99,999. Double click on settlement cost element. Oh, anyways, we got it. Now this part is important for us. Go to new entries, and here we will be selecting the profitability segment. This part is the criteria. This part is the criteria, profitability segment. So I want to settle it by cost element or by settlement cost element. You can do anyway. I'm selecting by cost element. Of course, we also have created settlement cost elements. If you want to consider, you can consider this one. Why it is an internal settlement? Because we are settling it from internal order to the profitability segment. So internal order, profitability segment, both are there within the controlling. So because of that, we call it as internal settlement. Suppose if you are settling it to AUC outside the controlling, if you are picking up any object which is outside the controlling, such as AUC, in the case of fixed asset, if we have one scenario, of course we have not covered that part because of the fixed asset, the configuration issue. So what happens there in that scenario is we will keep on posting the transactions to internal order, and at the end of each month from internal order we will settle it to AUC, and we'll keep on do the same thing for all the remaining months until the asset is ready. So every month we will be settling internal order to AUC asset. Once the asset is ready, from AUC to main asset. This is what on the whole the cycle is. Of course, we have already seen AUC settlement to fixed asset, but we have not seen the settlement of internal order to AUC. So internal order to AUC is nothing but an external. In such a case, you will have here external cost element. I'll show you that part as well. If you just select fixed asset here, now you can get the external.
Hey
You see
Nanda,
here. Yes.
Nanda, hello.
Yes.
Hey Nanda, sorry. Hey, you just said that you can settle from internal order to AUC,
Mm-hmm.
and once your projects over finished, like for example, if you are building,
Mm-hmm.
so all the cost accumulated into internal order, yeah, that you settle into the AUC at the end of the month, correct?
At the end of the
But
month, yes.
even if the project is not finished, if you want to just settle
We
from
will have to settle. We will have to settle internal order to AUC on monthly basis.
on monthly basis, correct? But you cannot settle from AUC directly to internal order directly to the
Main asset.
AMR,
What does that mean?
asset, asset management.
Directly transfer from order to AMR instead of AUC. It will in the
What is
behind the system
AMR?
will post
What
order to
is
AUC,
AMR?
AUC to AMR.
What is AMR?
Asset master record.
Asset master record.
You can do that, but the problem here is if you settle that to main asset, you will have to provide depreciation. That's the problem. Until and unless the asset is ready, how can we provide the depreciation? That is the reason why we have a concept called AUC.
Oh,
In the case of AUC, the depreciation rate is going to be 0%. But if you are settling that to a main asset, then you will have to provide depreciation.
yeah.
That is
I'm just creating that.
as per the rules.
Yeah.
That is as per Companies Act.
Oh, okay.
I think the internal order, it depends. How about if the company, they are not into fixed assets and they're just using only internal order? Is that possible?
No, if you don't have the fixed asset in your purview, you cannot settle that to AUC.
Yes, I know. You cannot settle down to AUC, but in the case of internal order, the
Mhm.
settlement is different when you are settling it into, because if you're settling into fixed asset, that is the final settlement. Am I correct?
Mhm. Right. I mean, as long as you have fixed asset configuration, you can settle it that to fixed asset area. Internal order can be settled to fixed asset area.
Okay.
Got it? Hello?
Yes, got it.
Yeah.
Depend on Naresh. You answered, you asked the question, Naresh.
Yes, Nanda, I got it. I'm sorry, I was on the mute. I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. That's fine. So since we are selecting profitability segment, we will have internal settlement cost element. Okay. So internal settlement cost element, just press enter. Okay. And save. Okay. Now this allocation structure we will assign to our settlement profile now. Let us try and do it here. Let me just get into here. Assignment, allocations, all expenses, double click on source and double click on settlement cost element. It is happening now, but it is not happening for the other already created allocation structures. Not sure why. Okay, anyways, this allocation structure, we will maintain it over here in the settlement profile now. Now maintain settlement profile, just execute, double click on maintain settlement profile. I think 2000 is our settlement profile. Let us go into details. Yeah, profitability segment. Now here allocation structure, the one what we have created just now to be selected or here. Now save it. Okay, back. Now go back to the creation of internal order KO01. Double click on that. Take controlling area order type. Press enter. I will say internal order for profitability segment. Company code is going to be 2000. Profit center going to be 2000. Okay, so we are not selecting the statistical. Going into profit settlement rule, and I'm selecting here the profitability segment. And the moment I select it over here, press enter. Now you will have the characteristics what you want to select. Okay, I want to select cost center as 2000 and profit center as 2000. I don't have the other fields. I can select country also. I will say yes. Continue. Okay, and just save. The order has been created. So 1 all zeros, 37 is our internal order. Okay, so what we will do, we will post now transactions into that. I don't know if FD02 is working or FB50 is working, not sure. Okay, 06042019, and I'm selecting 4 lakhs. Okay, 4 lakhs, I will say 10,000, and I will have to select the internal order. Our internal order type is 2000. Press enter, you will have the order number. And I'm saying 50, 1,20,000, which is a bank account, selecting the amount. And I will say due is 10 April 2019. Okay, save it. Save it. Document number is posted. Let us post another transaction, and let us, okay, here what I will do, this time I will select rent. This time I will select rent. Earlier I have selected the salaries account. Now this time I will select office rent. Press enter. 12,500, and internal order going to be 1 all zeros 37, and posting key going to be 50. The GL cost, the bank GL going to be the, will be on the credit side, and 12,000. Okay, and I'm just saving. Okay, now, so when we have a report KOB1 for internal order line item report, KSB1 for cost center, and KOB1 for internal order. Information systems reports for internal orders line items KOB1. Okay, just press enter, take the order, take the range, and I don't want to consider any cost element. I want to consider all of them and execute. You can see the list of transactions posted to this particular internal order. See here, this is in INR because our controlling area is INR. Okay, so now if you change, you can see value type. You can see object currency and transaction currency. Okay, value type, of course, you know that value type. Yeah, business transaction is also one of the important aspect for our reports. If you want to develop any report, this business transaction is important. Okay, just press enter. You can have all of them. Object currency. Okay, now here transaction currency and business transaction. COIN is our business transaction. right? So these are the amounts that have been, those have been posted to this internal order. Okay, now we will settle this internal order. The transaction code is the same, KO88, period and closing, and settlement KO88, individual processing. For collective processing, KO8G. For collective process, in the sense, if you want to settle multiple internal orders at a time, you can use KO8G, and if at all you want to do one after the other, you will have to use KO88. Just press enter here. Select controlling area, order number, and settlement period is going to be 4. Select a test run and check transaction data and just execute. If you want to see the settlement rule, you can see the test run. I'm running in the test run mode to see if at all I have any errors. So I don't have any errors now. So this is what the sender receiver is this. Okay, now the sender receiver, in the case of receiver, profitability segment is a receiver. Okay, and select the same thing, go into details. This is what some information about cost element. This cost element is being used for the settlement process. Why do we require a settlement cost element? This settlement cost element will require to take the values from the source object to the cost to the target object. Okay, so back, and here settlement rule, of course you can see what is our settlement rule. Just double click here on this, you can see this transaction, and if you go here in the profitability segment, you can see this is our internal order number, company code, and cost center, profit center, and of course country. Okay, back. So if everything is fine, go back and remove test run, execute in the real mode. Now if you go and see, the internal order will not have any balance. Okay, select the same thing, double click on accounting documents. Here you can see accounting document and profitability analysis document, COPA document. If you see accounting document, since you have a cost element here, you got this. Okay, since you have this cost element, you have the accounting document. In this case, both debit and credit going to be the same, so ultimately there is no impact on the finance side because it is moving from one object to the other object. Typically there should not be any impact in finance. Because of that, you can see both the GLs have the same. Okay, debit and credits are going to be the same GL, so you don't really require, I mean, we can say that there is no impact. And the other thing is that is posting date is considered as the last day of the month, because the settlement normally happens at the end of the month. This is going to be one of the month end activities. This is going to be one of the month end activities, so it will have a 30th April. And if you want to see your reports until 29th, you cannot see this transaction at all in your financial records. Okay, back. Now coming to the profitability analysis. Double click on profitability analysis, company code, US, and you can see the profit center, controlling area, cost center, order, partner profit center, all those stuff automatically. We got them automatically. Now coming to the value field, and you have administration $152. Why 152 we got? Okay, just scroll down. 150 rent, foreign currency is INR, that's fine. Foreign currency is fine, but why operating concern? A company, what is our operating concern? Are we considering a different currency? This is fine. Company code currency is fine. 10,000. I think we have entered these only. 10,000 and 12,500. That's fine. Now, the important thing is we will check about operating concern later. Now, important thing is that here 10,000 is impacted to administration and 12,500 is impacted to rent. Why? Because this is based on PA transfer structure. When you go here in the PA transfer structure, this is I think, yeah, this is the one. Double click on assignment line, salary, go to, just selected source. This is the cost element that we have considered, and value field which we mentioned as administration. So salary amount should be impacted to administration. You can see the same thing here, 10,000. And the next what we have is the rent. We have posted another transaction using office rent. So this is what, these are the two GLs we have. I have picked up this cost element. Now, since we have under this, what is the value field that should consider? It should consider rent. So you can see the rent over here. This is in the case of USD, and in the foreign currency, I mean the controlling area currency, you can see, but operating concern currency, why it is saying as 190. Okay, so let us go here in the profitability analysis. Maintain operating concern, execute attributes, USD only here. Why the amount is showing differently? Why 190? Okay.
Nanda, can you go back? I want to show you
One
something.
second, one
Yeah.
second, 1 second. 190.08. So here, if you go here in the company code currency, this is the one, and in the foreign currency. Yeah. So it is converting the foreign currency into operating concern currency. Now our foreign currency, it is INR is this much, right? Now when you go here into the operating concern currency, it is taking this amount. It means 8874 8874 8874.835 divided by 46.69. So that way you have 190.08, but I'm not understanding why this is so. And moreover, in INR, how come we have this amount? Okay, I will check that. I mean, it behaves properly, but we normally don't consider at all that company code currency is important for us. So normally we will take this part. And Of course, the operating concern currency is also important. Anyways, let me just check that. Okay, so document number is 17. Yeah, you were saying something. What is that, sir? Hello?
Yeah, can you go back? I want to show you something.
Go back from here.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
No, I mean, there was another screen, where all the currencies were defined, not defined, but tick mark. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Okay. See here, you say USD, but like it says company code currency tick mark, but not the operating currency that
Profit
valuation.
center valuation is not there, right? We are
Uh,
not at all using this profit center valuation thing.
hmm.
So
Okay.
I've just selected this one.
I see. Okay. Okay. Because I thought, that it has to do something with the cooperating currency.
No, 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 no. That is different actually. Okay, but anyways, I will have a look into that. So this is what basically, this settlement. One more thing I wanted to say. Now in the profitability analysis, if you see here, record type is C. What is C? It picks up automatically order and project settlement. So we don't have to select that. It picks up automatically. Okay, right. That is what this record type. And in the case of integration, display cost element, display order, start selected report, accounting documents. You can see all of them here. What is our display? What is our cost element? You can see that particular. Display internal order. Okay, that's the order settlement. Any questions on the internal order settlement? And if you go to KOB1, you will not find any balance over there. It shows 0 here because it is settled. Any questions?
No, Nanda.
Yeah. So now, apart from these two, of course, we have accounting based COPA. We have some issue with the reports. I will have a look into that as well today. And apart from accounting based and costing based COPA, we have combined based COPA. There are some advantages, disadvantages with accounting based and costing based. So to overcome that, we have combined based COPA. Now, what happens in the case of accounting based COPA? So in the case of accounting based COPA, what happens? Basically, this is in the case of, the main important thing is the main important point in the case of sales. So let me run through over that. In the case of sales cycle, basically we have 3 steps. Okay, first is the sales order creation. Second one is goods delivery. During the goods delivery, the entry going to be COGS account and inventory account. So in the case of costing based COPA, and in the case of accounting based COPA. So here we will not have a COPA document in the case of costing based COPA. And in the case of accounting based COPA, we will have COPA document. This is during the goods delivery. It means the COGS amount will be considered here during the settlement, during the goods issue itself, COGS. It means you can see COGS amount in your COPA report. COPA report. In COPA report, you can see this COGS amount. Now, in the case of sales invoice, there is another step called sales invoice. What happens during this? Debit customer and credit sales or revenue. Now here you will have a COPA document. Here also you will have a COPA document. Now here during the goods delivery, COPA document will contain COGS information, and this is in the case of accounting base, and here you will have a revenue amount, revenue information. Right. Now the problem here is in the costing based COPA. So there won't be any COPA document during goods delivery. It means no COGS will be considered into COPA during in the costing based COPA while running the goods delivery. But once we complete the sales invoice, it takes care of both COGS and revenue. It takes care of both COGS and revenue. Okay. Now, what is the main problem with this? What is the main problem with this? The problem with the accounting based COPA basically, suppose I ran this COPA document, okay? The COPA document, if I run the COPA document on 31st of March or 31st of anything, okay? So you can see your COGS amount in finance and you can see in your COGS amount in COPA. So it will match. That is the problem for costing based COPA. So what way? It means your finance will have COGS amount, but your COPA will not have this COGS amount. COPA does not have any COGS amount, whereas finance has COGS amount. Finance has posted a transaction in COGS with some amount on the in that particular month. Let's say we ran this transaction on 23rd March, let us assume. And whereas sales invoice we ran on 2nd April. So on the last day of this month, the ending of March, will have COGS amount in finance, but since no COPA documents, there is no COGS amount in COPA report. COPA report does not have COGS, whereas finance will have COGS. So that is what the major problem with the costing based when you compare with the accounting based. You know what I mean? But what is the problem with the accounting based over the costing based? So costing based basically will help with the value. I mean, in the costing based, we will use value field while creating the report. This has got more flexibility rather than the cost element. While creating the COPA report, we will have to consider each and every cost element here in the accounting based. It is not required in the costing base because of value field that we are considering. So it has got more flexibility, more flexibility. Now what happens in this case? If I run over this, okay, on 23rd when we run this goods issue, finance has COGS amount, but COPA does not have. But whereas in the next month, when we complete the sales invoice, both COGS and revenue gets updated in COPA, but in this month, COGS will not be there in finance. It means it is kind of a reconciliation. We have to do a reconciliation, which is little tough for us at the end of the month when you want to do a reconciliation between FI and COPA. Why? Because here during the goods delivery in the month of March, you can see COGS in finance, but not in COPA. On 2nd April, when we complete the sales invoice, we see COGS and revenue in COPA, but we see only revenue in finance. Okay, that is kind of a mismatch from both the report front. Okay, that is the major difference, major setback with the costing based. Okay, but when you compare with the report side, the costing based has more flexibility. Now because of that, we have combined based COPA. Combined based COPA. I think 1809 has more features for this combined based COPA. Let's see. Let us do this thing once we have this particular uh, the SAP nodes implemented. Okay, so now what exactly we have in costing based COPA? Sorry, combined based COPA. This combined based COPA will have both costing based properties and accounting based property. It means combined based COPA will take care of both value fields and account cost elements.
Hey, Nanda,
Yes,
why is it some companies use combined base COPA?
that's what I'm saying here now. Because of there are some drawbacks with the costing based COPA, and there are some drawbacks in the case of accounting based COPA. In order to overcome both of them, we have cost combined based COPA. So the combined based COPA will take care of both costing based and accounting based, but on the configuration front, you can see value fields more value fields, but value fields are connected again the cost element that you can see in our configuration. So
Okay.
basically what I'm trying to tell you here is all functionalities of costing based will be there here in the combined based, apart from the apart from the cost element which we are using in the accounting base. So basically it will have both properties of costing based and accounting based. Now under this combined base, we will have a COPA document as soon as we complete the goods delivery. We will have a COPA document. Now as I mentioned, every cost combined based COPA contains both cost elements and value fields. And here we can also the finance document related information. That is the important point for the combined based COPA. There are different tables that are to be considered here in the combined based COPA. So I think it should be somewhere in my records. I will check that part. And the other important thing is record type. Record type is L for this combined based COPA. Of course, you can see them here in our transactions. In our transactions, if you go here, FB02, that FB02, okay, that is not the right document number. Own documents, I will say entry date is going to be today's date. Okay, execute. Changes document with the status journal entry without entry view. Okay, otherwise I will go here in KOB1. I think this is our internal order. Just execute. Double click here on this. Select the same thing. Accounting document. Double click on profitability analysis. Here you have record type. If you see over here, L. L is the record type that is used for the combined based COPA. And there is one table that will be created here that is called CE9 followed by our operating concern. Our operating concern is 1248 underscore IC. I remember this table, and this takes care of the line items. All line items can be seen here. All line items can be seen over here. But we have some other tables also. I will let you know that a little later. I have something in my Gmail. I will pick that up and will send across to you all. Okay, so this is one of the important table that is used in the case of combined based COPA. Okay, and there are some other features also. I mean, the alternative unit of measures. There are something else that we will have to see basically. And one important transaction code called KEPSL. That's where we will have to do KEPSL. Here we will have to do the complete configuration relating to combined profitability analysis. Okay, but this we can do it once we have here combined based COPA. Okay, we can do them once those SAP nodes implemented. So we will discuss these once we have those the SAP nodes implemented into it. Okay, now we have, let's discuss something on the other topic. So I'll send across a document. That the document will have all the configuration steps what are required from the perspective in order to have FIMM integration. And we also have SD configurations to have FI SD integration. We also have FISD integration, and that list will also have what are the configuration steps that are required from the SD perspective. And we also have the configuration steps required in order to run our production cycle, and that also will be there in that the Excel sheet. I will send across you that Excel sheet so to have for you to look into them, because those configuration steps are required from the CO consultant perspective, because SD might not be knowing the importance of such transactions, or might not be knowing such important steps, PP might not be knowing such important, but from the controlling perspective, from the controlling consultant perspective, we require those things. So we have to make sure the configuration is in place for all these three modules before we go and do any transaction. So what basically my point is, if we have steps, whatever the steps I have mentioned in the Excel sheet, if all those steps are in place, we can do FIMM integration. Okay, so the configuration will have all the steps from side, and we have to do one additional configuration which is important for us, called OBYC configuration. The GLs, when we run cycle, the GLs will be triggered based on OBYC. That we will be discussing in detail. But I want you to go through all the steps, SD steps, PP steps, because I will be finishing all the configuration either today or tomorrow based on the availability. Okay, I'll be finishing the configuration, and whatever is required in these, we will discuss them apart from a OBYC VKOA. VKOA for GL determination, account determination between FI and SD. OBYC is the account determination between FI and MM. These two will be discussed in detail. I mean, when does system go into that particular, pick up the value, that we will discuss. Okay, so I will send across this document to you. Just go through that and we will have a little glance on it and we will proceed that. Now coming to the FI and MM. Now when you look at the MM cycle, okay, when we look at the MM cycle, so what all MM cycle contains? Purchase order creation. Of course, purchase requisition will be there prior to that. After purchase order creation, goods receipt. It's called goods receipt. I mean, we will be receiving the goods, then invoice will be received. Okay, so goods will be received. After that, invoice will be received. Okay, these are the three steps, and of course, payment to vendor. This is what we have already seen. This is a finance impact, finance transaction. This is basically a finance transaction. And purchase requisition, purchase orders will be done by MM people. Goods receipt also will be done by MM people. Invoice receipt, in some organization MM will be done, and in some organizations FI will be done. Because this is what I mean, why it is important from finance angle, because the amount that we will have to pay to vendor and all the taxes, all will be considered here in the invoice receipt. So we will have to be very careful how much is the tax calculated and whether it is impacting the right GL. So because of that, FI involvement is required. So that is the reason why some organizations, MM people will do this activity. In some organization, FI people will do it. Okay, but even if MI people are doing this, from the finance perspective, we have to be very careful about these transactions. Of course, we have already seen the payment to vendor. Now here, what is the transaction code that we will be used in order to create a purchase requisition? ME21N. And goods receipt, MIGO. It is called MIGO. And what is the journal entry that we can see? Okay, what is the entry that we can see here? Debit inventory and credit GRIR clearing account. Debit GR and GRIR clearing account. Okay, this is where the OBYC comes into picture. This is where our configuration, our involvement comes into picture from the finance perspective. Our involvement is required. So which GL to consider? What is the basis to consider? That we will discuss in our next sessions. Next, similarly, and from the the invoice receipt here, debit GRIR and credit vendor. Okay, again here also, since we have GRIR clearing account, this is part of OBYC, and vendor will come based on the purchase order. At the time of creating the purchase order, we will be entering what is the vendor that we will have to consider. So that is what the vendor. Of course, payment, you know the payment. This is we can use either F-53 or F110. Of course, we have not done that part due to the bank thing. Okay, so debit vendor and credit bank. credit bank. Okay, so this we will be doing either using F-53 or F-58 or F110. You can use any one of them. We have not completed F110. We will be discussing that. Okay, so in all these cases, the FIMM integration comes into picture. So in order to do OBYC configuration, we need MM configuration in place. So what kind of this thing is? Now, if you see MM organization structure, first on the top, you will have purchase organization, and below to that, you will have plant, below to that, you will have storage location. So we will be dealing the configuration relating to this. We will be dealing the configuration relating to this. What is a purchase organization? Whatever the material movements that we are doing, whether we are purchasing, issuing, scrapping, whatever we are doing, whether we are transferring from one plant to the other plant or from one company code to the other company code, all the material movements have to be done within this purchase organization. It will be like a company code for finance. Whatever the transactions that we will be doing, whatever the finance transaction that we will be doing, all have to be connected to a company code. Similarly, whatever the materials that are moving, that has to be connected with the purchase organization. And what is plant? Plant is a place where the manufacturing takes place. Plant is a place where the stock gets stored. Within the plant, we will have storage locations and we will keep our material there. That's called storage location. The place where we keep our material. It's called store bin. It's a separate room. And we may have multiple storage locations within this plant. Plant is a location where manufacturing happens, goods receipt happens, goods issue happens. All these will happen here within the plant. We may have multiple plants within the purchase organization. We may have multiple plants. We may have multiple storage locations within the plant. So we may have multiple plants, and each plant we may have multiple storage locations. The storage location, one for raw material, maybe we can use one storage location for finished products. Maybe we can use one storage location for packing materials, or you can keep all of them in one storage location. That's up to you. How do you want to have? How do you want to organize your materials? That's a business call. Okay, so normally they will keep separate in a separate, because it becomes very easy for us to pick up the material quickly. Okay, so normally we will create separate storage locations for each type of the materials. We have different types of materials. Raw material is one of the material types, finished materials one of the material types, semi-finished one of the material types, consumables one of the material types, right? We have different material types. So for each of the materials, we can keep a separate storage location. All these storage locations will be created within this plant, and this plant is connected to this purchase organization. This purchase organization will be connected to our company code. That way, whatever the transactions we are doing here, the finance impact of all these things will happen to our company code. Next, this is from the MM organization structure. So the configuration relating to this will happen in this. The material what I'm going to share will contain all that. And of course, that material also will contain OBYC, but we will discuss OBYC separately. This is about MM organization structure. And if you see the SD organization structure,
So
okay, now come.
Nanda, you said purchase organization is assigned to the company code.
Mhm.
Okay, so the company code underneath it comes purchase organization. Then what?
Correct, correct, correct. Because of that only, when we post any transaction here, this will have an impact in our finance.
Okay.
And that happens using this OBYC. This is a transaction code. In OBYC, we do a lot of account assignments. Then, you know, uh, that particular GL will be triggered in our finance.
Okay.
Next, coming to the SD organization structure. So as usually we will have sales organization structure, sales organization. Within the sales organization, we will have distribution channels and we will have divisions. You may have multiple divisions under distribution channel. You may have multiple distribution channels under sales organization. Whatever the sales that we are doing, all will happen based on the sales organization. This sales organization will be connected to our company code. That way, when we do our transaction here, we'll have a finance impact. Divisions. You can create divisions for multiple. Let's say you can create a separate division for local sales, import sales, or whatever the way you want. You can do that common sales. You can keep a separate division for each of them. Distribution channel. How are you distributing? Do you have any agent or are you selling it directly to the customer? What is the way that you are distributing your material? That is called distribution channel talks about. And the sales organization is the organization stands on the top in the SD, and this sales organization has a responsibility of the sales, the goods delivery thing. Okay, goods delivery thing, that is what we will be discussing here in the selling and the distribution organization. Okay, now so all these configuration will be mentioned here in the SD. Of course, we have VKOA also. VKOA, why do we require VKOA? VKOA is required in the case of sales cycle. Let me explain you that sales cycle. If you see sales cycle will have sales order creation, then goods delivery and sales invoice. So during the goods delivery, debit COGS and credit stock account, inventory account. And during the sales invoice, debit, customer, credit, revenue or sales. Okay, the VKOA will take care of this part only. Many people will have this kind of assumption that even goods delivery also will happen in FISD integration VKOA. No, it is not true. So the VKOA will talk about only the sales invoice. Goods delivery will happen based on OBYC configuration only. This is one of the interview questions. Okay, so the goods delivery will happen based on FIMM integration, but whereas sales invoice will happen based on VKOA, FISD integration. The sales account, how do you pick up this sales account? The customer will be there in the sales order itself, but how does the system pick up this sales and revenue account? This is based on VKOA. That we will be discussing. Okay, so on the whole, MMSD is this thing. Okay, during our product costing, we will talk about what is PP and what is the importance of PP thing. Okay, so now I will send across the document, the configuration document, the document which contains the configuration steps for all these. Just have a look into it. I will finish that part. I will complete, what do you call, I will complete the configuration for MMSD, MM if possible today. Then we can continue with the MM organization structure. I mean MM cycle.
So Nanda, you said you compute the configuration and create it in the Excel here.
Right. The configuration, I mean the paths, I have created some, the Excel sheet. That Excel sheet will have all the paths. Where do we need to go in order to create sales purchase organization? What
Okay.
is the configuration? I mean, what is the path where we will go and create a sales organization?
Okay.
And what are the other relevant configurations for this?
All
I've
right.
created that Excel sheet. I'll share across to you everyone, so that I will complete this configuration. Okay, and we can straight away start OBYC VKOA. And once we are done with it, we can run the MM cycle, SD cycle.
If you send everything, I will introduce you to CNN and the White House.
Sorry.
I said if you send everything to us,
uh,
you and I will go to the White House to meet
Correct.
Donald.
Yes.
Please,
Right.
please do. Thank you so much.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is what basically the MMSD thing. Any questions on this?
For now, from my side,
Okay,
until the document, then if you have any question, I'll let you know from my side.
right. So I'll make sure that the combined based COPA and accounting based COPA are settled today, so that we can finish that part tomorrow, and from day after tomorrow we can continue we can start the MM cycle once we are done with OBYC.
Thank you.
Okay, right. Thanks everyone.
Nanda,
Thank you.
Nanda, about the recording, that